Good morning, Ayman. Here's your machine, the Breville Barista Express BES870 in brushed stainless steel. As you saw in the photos, it's in good condition. It's a used machine, so it does have some scratches around the front, a dent here in the middle, some staining on the back panel here, general wear and tear, but mainly on the front and very minimal actually, like not too bad. I've just finished doing the service on this machine, so checking the pressure on the espresso side, the steam side, calibrating the grinder, doing both the cleaning and the descale cycle, cleaning the grinder. So the machine is pretty much ready to go. It's nice and clean, very healthy, no issues at all. And in this video I'll be making a coffee, so testing all the features, the grinder, the grip head and the steamer and the hot water tap. So I'll tell you my routine when I make coffee on these machines. I like to do one of two things: either turn on the machine and leave it on for 10 minutes to warm it up, so that's going to warm up your portafilter and machine. But sometimes I also like to warm up my cup as well. So if I'm in a hurry, instead of waiting, what I'll do is once the machine turns on, usually takes a minute to warm up from cold. Once it's up to temperature, you'll see the buttons light up. Get your cup, put it underneath and press the double. That's going to give you about 100 mils of 100 mils of hot water. So if your cup is cold, this will warm it up. If you make coffee with a cold cup and a cold handle, the coffee will come cold and maybe a bit sour. So that's why I recommend you do the warm-up procedure. Like I said, it takes 15 seconds. It's not very hard to do. Once that's done, you can keep the cup on the side. I'm going to grab the portafilter here. Your machine comes with the single and the double basket. These are the single wall classic baskets, same type of basket you'd see in a cafe. This one takes 18 grams, this aside. It takes 18 grams of ground coffee. And so that's what I'm going to do now. Firstly I'm drying it to make sure that there's no sticking when we grind the coffee. I'm going to use my scale here to measure exactly 18 grams. Just a little bit of water. Cool. So yeah, I'm using a scale to measure the dose. You don't have to use a scale, it's recommended. It will make your life a little bit easier and more consistent with the espresso making. I'm also using LD dark beans, fresh bag, stored in a vacuum canister. So the beans are pretty good. At the moment, it's at grind size number 2. On the left, grind size, a larger grind size will give you coarser coffee particles, or more larger particles, basically, yeah. And finer grind size will give you more powdery, more finely ground coffee. I haven't made a coffee on it yet, so there's no way to know that we have the correct grind size before we make a coffee on it. So it could be grind size 1, it could be 3, it could be something else. But I'm going to start at number 3 or number 2 because I did have a look before the video and the consistency of the coffee was close to what I have on my own machine here. So it should be maybe 1, maybe 2, maybe 3. So I'll start on number 2 and see if we need to change that. The grind size will depend on bean age, bean type and brand, and even how old the bag of beans is, and the roast, etc. So a lot of factors. So I'm going to try to get it roughly in the espresso area, but not exactly perfect maybe, because once you get the machine you may have different beans from me. So there's no point really for me to calibrate this machine to my beans if you're going to use it. But it should be close enough. So I'll start on number 2. This here, I'll start on 1 o'clock position. So on the left, the grind size dial, like I said, it will dictate how much resistance the machine will get when it makes coffee. So if I grind very, very fine, we'll get very high pressure, and the coffee will flow slowly if it's very fine. Sometimes a little bit too slow is not good. And on the other hand, if it's a very large grind size, there's not going to be a lot of resistance, so the water will just go through and the coffee will be very quick. The pressure will be low, and that's not good either. So you have to be in the middle. And if you're interested in the numbers, the correct recipe for espresso, I've been talking so much that my scale turned off. The correct recipe for espresso is 2 to 1. So for every gram you grind, you want 2 grams out into the cup. So if we grind 18 into the handle, we want 36 of espresso into the cup. And that should happen in 20 to 30 seconds. When you grind too fine, it becomes too slow, what might happen is the coffee might be dripping very slowly into the cup in 1 or 2 drops at a time, or a very thin stream, maybe taking 45 a minute to give you that 36 gram dose or 36 gram shot. That's much more than 30 seconds. On the other hand, if it's very large particles, you'll have low pressure. You will get the 36 gram dose in only maybe 10 or 15 seconds, which is too quick. May or may not be very important to you if you add sugar and milk to your coffee, but it's recommended you at least put it in the right zone so you can experience the best coffee that you can with this machine. Okay, last thing is that filter size, you can select single or double. We are making a double shot, but I prefer to keep it on single and do it twice. That's going to create less mess, and it'll allow me to measure it halfway, so to see if we're on the right track. So 1 o'clock, single, grind size number 2. Looking good, maybe a little bit too much coffee. It's 9.5. So I'm going to reduce it to maybe 12 o'clock, and I'm going to measure it again. Excellent. So that's now 9 grams. I've trimmed off the extra half gram. Once you do your first dose, you get the tamper, or get the handle in the tamper like this, to make space for the next shot. This will reduce the mess when you grind the second dose, or the second shot. 12 o'clock, let's see how much that gives us. Very nice. Maybe still a little bit too much coffee, so we might have to put it on 11. We'll see. Yeah. So probably 11 o'clock will give you closer to 9 grams. Now, this is 18 grams, perfect. Once you have the correct amount of coffee, like now I'm setting it up and it's taking a long time, but once you set it up to the correct grind size, to the correct amount, you just keep it there and you use that every day. It's as simple as that. So if you don't have a scale, that's fine. Another tip I can give you is when you grind, it should look like this. It should be close to the, I guess, flush with the surface, or flush with the basket. That's before you tamp. Once we tamp, you'll notice something else happening. But yeah, before you tamp, you want to make sure it's like even all around, so that you get even pressure all around when you press. So then now I'm going to press. Just a little bit of loose coffee, and you notice it went deeper, of course, because I've pressed it. This silver part disappears when you have the correct amount of coffee. So we know we have the correct amount of coffee because we have 18 grams confirmed by the scale. And so I tell people all the time to look at this silver part on the tamper, and if it disappears, then you have the correct amount of coffee. That's how you know if you don't have a scale. If you press the coffee and then the silver part, you can still see it, then that's too much coffee. And if, on the other hand, on the other side of things, if you have too little coffee, what will happen is this handle will be so deep in the handle, the tamper will be so deep into the basket, almost like too deep, you'll know. So it should be exactly flush with the silver part. And then clean the edges if there's any coffee grounds here. Look it in. I'm gonna get rid of this hot water. You also have a hot water tap actually, so this will give you clean hot water from the boiler. You can use this to make a long black coffee, so turning an espresso into Americano, you use hot water. You can also use this to do like tea bags. In my case, I use a little bit of hot water to help the sugar in my cup dissolve. I use this feature every day. Cool. Now I'm going to use my scale again to measure the output, and my scale also has a timer, so I'm going to measure the time and the output. The last level of complexity that I'll tell you today with the espresso is we spoke about time, we spoke about input, we spoke about output and grind size and amount. The last thing is the buttons here. These are programmable. You can change them to whatever length you'd like. Just because you have the correct grinding and correct everything doesn't mean that the machine knows exactly when to stop. So from factory, this will give you 60 mils of hot water, this will give you 100 mils of hot water. But when you make coffee, that doesn't translate exactly or accurately. So you have to recalibrate them with your own coffee, with your own beans. But you don't have to, because I will do it for you now. I will calibrate this button to give you between 35 and 40 grams, 35 and 40 grams of coffee, not water, coffee. This one I'll leave it as is. You can try it later. If you like it, you can keep it. But yeah, you can go from this level of coffee to all the way to a full cup of coffee. That's the range of settings that you can set these to. So it's really up to you, but for me, I'm going to set it up to what I think the correct espresso should be. Yep. So to reprogram the button, you only do this the first time you want to reprogram it. When you use it, normally, obviously, you just press the button, but now I'm going to reprogram it. So I press program, and press the button. And I'm also timing it. We'll see how, keep an eye on the pressure, make sure the pressure is in the gray zone. So maybe 11 to 1 o'clock. Oh, very nice. It looks like it's all the way up to 1 o'clock. Maybe we've ground a little bit too fine, but we'll wait. We'll wait all the way to 30 seconds and see how much we get. So it's at grind size number 2. This is the coffee we're getting. It looks really good actually. At 32 seconds. Okay, we got 30 grams in 32 seconds. That tells me that we might need to increase the grind size by 1 number. So from grind size number 2 to grind size number 3, that will make it a little bit quicker. So that will mean in 30 seconds we'll probably get 35 grams instead of 30 grams. But this is still a drinkable shot. And in fact, this is not recommended, but I can extract a little bit more caffeine out of it. This is not always recommended. I only do it because of the caffeine. So now this is 38 grams, perfect. This is what it should look like, 35 to 40 grams. Usually you can just remember how it looks like without a scale. So that's why I recommend use the scale in the beginning, but once you get used to the amount, this is what espresso should look like. This is the correct amount of espresso. And again, don't focus too much on the numbers. Like, don't think, oh my god, it's 34, not 36, or it's 40, not 36. It's all about the taste and the experience. If you're enjoying the coffee, just do what's easiest for you. Like, this is not a professional machine. This is not a laboratory tool. It's not going to be always exact, but it's going to be approximately exact. It's going to be approximately close from coffee to coffee, but not necessarily exactly the same decimal points every time. Very easy to clean. Just knock it into the bin, and it'll fall. And then the last thing I do about espresso cleaning is give it a flush. This way you clean both the group head and the portafilter at the same time. Just like that. You can let it there to dry over the next few hours. Some people like to lock it in into the group head. Not really my preference. Because if it's wet, it might stay wet until the next morning. You don't want that. Dry the portafilter, and then also give the group head a wipe. Sometimes there's a little bit of ground coffee stuck even after you flush, so it's always good. Last thing I'm going to do is frothing the milk. So this is is not your froth, this is actually mine. I'm not sure if I'm including a frother with this package, but I'll see what I have. I'll see if I have a spare jug to give you. But yeah, you want to fill the jug about halfway. I'm using cold full cream milk. Cold milk is recommended because it takes longer to froth, and that means you give it more texture and more control. Whereas if you're using already warm milk or room temperature milk, it'll warm up very quickly and you won't have time to give it texture. So with frothing, turn on the steamer, wait about 10 or 15 seconds, you'll see the pump engage, like duh, duh. That means it's about full pressure. Give it a few more seconds. I just did the descal cycle, which flushes the steam on. That's why a lot of water comes out. Oh yeah. That's pretty much full pressure. So turn it off and really quickly turn it back on. Turn it off. Position it. Turn it back on. You want to learn the technique of frothing milk if you don't know already, because it can be really rewarding to get the milk right. Keep the milk spinning basically. Keep the wand tip close to the surface of the milk. So you'll hear this hissing sound for the first few seconds. This hissing sound means that you're injecting air into the milk, you're giving it more bubbles. And then 10 seconds later, raise the jug, because you don't want to give it too many bubbles, otherwise it'll be too frothy, too large of a foam, and that's not always great for latte. You might like it, up to you, but for me, I like it more smooth and creamy, rather than bubbly and frothy. And then it's spinning now, just heating it up, no more hissing sound, no more aerating the milk. And then when it's too hot to the touch, I'll turn it off. Give it a quick purge to clean the insides, and then wait a few seconds and it'll automatically cool down. And last thing is to wipe it. Grab a wet towel and wipe all aspects of the wand, top to bottom. The milk will stick there. The wand is really hot. The milk will stick there. It'll stay forever if you don't clean it. It'll get really unsanitary really over time. And that's all done. You can, after everything is nice and dry, lock the pour filter back in. Make another coffee, it's up to you. Yeah, so the machine automatically cools down from the steam mode. And then once you see the buttons light up, you're ready to make another espresso. And that's espresso on your machine. And milk, so it's actually a latte, not espresso. Espresso is just the base, which is what's in this cup. Okay, I'm knocking it on the counter to break any big air bubbles. Then swirl it around to mix it up. Very, very nice. That's my latte. It's actually a magic latte because it's a short espresso with a little bit of milk. Looks really good. I think you can do similar, if not better, coffees with latte art if you do some practice as well. I think you'll enjoy this machine. If you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you very soon.